You are now listening to the iWalter Show. Real talk about nothing.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird brain. It's a plane. It's iWalter. iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, a strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Alrighty, hey, good morning everyone. This is Walter on iWalter on this Tuesday morning, the 14th of July, 2015 at 3:18. Yeah, you know what, I was trying to look for things to talk about. One thing was, tonight I got in the mail, I bought it from Amazon. I bought 16 more gigs of RAM for my computer. I have an older Mac. It's actually a 3.1, they call it. It was 2008, and I had 8 gigs of RAM, and I figured I'm going to see if I can, find some cheap, some RAM. I was just curious at the price because I just upgraded my laptop, an old laptop, Apple laptop, and it works a lot better now. So, yeah, it says Mac Pro early 2008. It's 2.8 quad-core Xeon processors. There's actually a place online that upgrades your computer. I could actually go to a 12-core system if I really wanted to. But you got to ship it out for them to do that. Then they upgrade your system. It's a couple $100, so it's almost like $1,000. But yeah, now I have 24 gigs of. Unfortunately, it's only DDR2, but 24 gigs of RAM. And I actually am running a NVIDIA GeForce GTX 770. I wanted the 780, or there was they had some modded GeForce cards with like 4 gigs of RAM, I think, and they're over $1,000. They're like $1,500. So I didn't want that one. I got the cheaper one, which was still like over $500. Anyway, that's a different story. Yeah, I saw this story actually on Facebook from Rush. I didn't get to listen to him. I listened a little live today, a little bit of him on live radio today. Well, actually, I listened to it on my phone, my iPhone. But that's another thing. I've been having problems with my iPhone. I have one of the few people that I was lucky to get one that has a bad screen that has to probably be replaced. It's under warranty because I always recommend people to buy the extended warranties on this stuff. So I actually do practice what I preach. Anyway, it looks like El Paco. This was from yesterday's show when I was listening, probably. Threatens Trump. This is the head of, in Mexico. It really is. The head of the drug cartel. He was actually in jail. He escaped prison in Mexico, and now he's basically made threats and death threats to Donald Trump. So obviously Donald Trump must be doing something right if he really pissed off this head of a drug lord who was actually locked up, and he miraculously escaped. I wonder if it was, he might have been in jail, this drug cartel guy, and I'm sure it was one of these things like you almost see in these TV shows or movies where he might have been in prison, but he basically owned the prison and the guards, even though he was locked up. I'm questioning if that's what it was. But yeah, it's a transcript you can see on Rush's webpage. It's kind of interesting. There was another story. These are the ones I just kind of caught my eye. This was on breitbart.com, and it says reports sanctuary cities. These are the cities that just let illegals roam free. Basically, the ones that are criminals. It says, once again, report sanctuary cities released some 8,000 illegal aliens with criminal records this year. So that's 2015, folks. While the amnesty course scrambles to whip up bogus studies that claim illegal aliens aren't prone to committing crimes other than a plethora of other offenses required to be an illegal alien, of course. The sanctuary cities aren't really a thing. Hard data on alien crime waves keep pouring in. It basically says the latest comes from the Center of Immigration Studies, which obtained data for the government with a Freedom of Information Act request that showed some 8,000 aliens with criminal records were released by 276. So I don't know if that's 276 or 276 sanctuary jurisdictions over the past 8 months. So yes, that was just for this year alone. It's a kind of a long article. Well, it's not. I just don't want to screw it up. That's a staggering degree of lawlessness perpetrated against the American people by elected officials. People should be going to jail over this, but of course they won't. That's what it says, by the way, not that last part. It just says people should go to jail for this. But just sweating through press conferences while Democrats and their business allies frantically try to change the subject. Yeah, I would definitely say, folks, you got to read this, whoever of the 5 people are listening at this given time. Fact is, it says, sorry about that, the CIS data shows there are sanctuary policies in 43 states plus the District of Columbia, which is already grappling with decades-long crime waves perpetrated by people who got there by winning elections. You know what? That actually brings me to the next story. I actually saw this. I put it on my Facebook page. Speaking about, like, basically the government is in on this, meaning the Democrats at this point. Here you go. This was something actually Rush put on his page as well. I don't think that last story did. There was a story he did put on I mentioned, and there was one that he did not, and this one he is mentioned again. It's called Obama to Drum Up the Prison Vote. He basically stated that this little throwaway that I doubt anybody is going to make a big deal of. A little story here is on Fox News. Obama is to be the first sit-in president to visit the federal prisons. Looks like he's trying to get like more votes, at least, you know, for the Democrat side, by allowing criminals now to vote. I don't know. Again, you can check that out on Rush's webpage. I would recommend that one as well. But it's titled Obama to Drum Up the Prison Vote. I thought they actually mentioned Hillary. That's why I was actually going to read that, but I didn't look at the whole thing. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, Obama to drum up prison votes. That's just ridiculous. That is actually desperate, more so. Yeah, there was another story, by the way, and it's actually more or less pictures. It's on BuzzPO.com, and it basically says, spread this, every dirty detail of Democrats' horribly racist past. And it shows a bunch of KKK members, and I guess what it's inferred is that they're actually probably predominantly Democrats. It's basically the Democrats when we had the Civil War. It was the Democrats that actually were the ones, pro-slavery, not the other one. They were actually for slavery. It was the Democrats, and unfortunately, a lot of African Americans don't seem to remember that. In fact, they have been brainwashed by our government, insisting it's the Republicans that are the bad guys, but it's actually the other way around. And it just would basically put them in the belief, or I like to call it the disbelief, about this whole thing is by basically getting a black president. That just sealed that idea for minorities that, oh, no, that's not true. Well, I hate to say it, yeah, it is actually true. It's the Democrats that when the war against the North and the South, it was the Democrats basically against the Republicans, if you really want to boil it down to what the whole thing was about. That BuzzPO.com actually says, charming people, these Democrats, aren't they? And it basically shows, again, that they are the racist. They try to make you believe that it's the Republicans and the conservatives that are, but it's actually the complete opposite. There's a couple of stories I could read and destroy, but I probably will not. Car accidents, some pretty severe ones. Ironically, one is just, I hate to say it, but blacked out windows in a pimped out car. And it was on the morning call. And it says motorcyclist was injured Monday night when he collided with a car on Talaman Street in Allentown, according to the witnesses and police radio reports. But the car had blacked out windows. I don't even know how they could see through them. And I'm sure the car was probably solely responsible for this accident. On a lighter note, by the way, it says Collegeville business sells a $1 million lottery ticket. So, hey, that's pretty cool. I wish I was a person who got that $1 million lottery ticket, though, but doubt it's going to happen. I don't even play the lottery that often. When I do, I never get anything. I get that random pick thing. The big thing that was on since last night was, and they were bootlegs at first, or basically video cammed copies from the Comic-Con, and what I'm going to talk about is the upcoming Suicide Squad trailer, for the movie. And actually looking at it, I was really shocked. It actually looks really good. I thought it was going to be a total disaster. Actually, it is not, by the looks of it. So I just had to throw that in the mix. All right, I wasn't going to read this. I probably will. Not what I just mentioned. It was on some InStyle.com. I couldn't help but take the... put this article on my Facebook page. It says Demi Lovato wants you to learn to love your curves, because she's kind of like, I didn't realize how thick she was in the legs. She actually looks really good, because I guess she grew her shaved side of her head off, and it's all like one color finally. And she was actually a really good entertainer. I remember seeing her on some show she had on Disney. It was really funny, too. And she basically decided, I don't want to do it any longer, so they had to can the show. And it's a shame, because I don't really particularly like her music, but I definitely thought she was pretty funny and a really good actress. But, whatever. This younger generation, they can't stick with anything very long. My excuse is, though, I have a short attention span, which I've had for the last 48 years, so it's not going to change at this point. I'm glad I looked at this. One story, which I'll read after this one that a friend sent me, was on Rush today, believe it or not. But this one wasn't. This was sent from a friend. Both of them, actually, I think, were. But I heard the one on Rush Limbaugh when I was listening to him on the live radio today. It said it's from mandatory.com. I swear to God, it really is called mandatory.com. And it says, woman too busy using sex toy in traffic crashes into a van. So, yeah, you might want to read that. It said the 30-something-year-old woman was hanging in traffic in Gloucestershire, England, when out of nowhere, her Mini Cooper accelerated forward and crashed into the back of a van, a stationary fish van, because she was too busy playing with her dildo. Yeah, that's pretty funny. I'm sorry, I couldn't help. A friend sent that to me, by the way. But yeah, it's titled "Women Too." She was too busy with her sex toy. But here's another one on the dildo factor. This one I actually heard. I heard on Rush today, and this is on smokeandguns.com. I think this is something actually Rush probably would read too, but a friend sent this to me. Cop arrest woman 57 for battering female domestic partner with a dildo. That has a picture of the woman. The confrontation Saturday evening occurred while a Clearwater Police Department officer was inside the home of Annette Calburn. I don't know how to say her name, so I apologize. 57, and I'm not going to even bother with the other one. But apparently, yeah, because I heard Rush talking about it, and they got in a fight, and she, I guess she used a dildo as a weapon, so... Yeah, after the woman tussled over the possession of a dress, Officer Eric Blumgren. Why can't people have normal names? I'm going to try to read a little bit and just make up, paraphrase it because I'm not doing a very good job. After basically, though, she assaulted her partner with a dildo. How's that? That's the simplest way to put it. Yeah, it said for domestic. This woman, the woman who got arrested, she got arrested for domestic battery. So, hey, what happened to that same-sex marriage that there's less violence or less fighting? There seemed like, according to the news press and the media, they said that they're actually the most stable relationships, so to speak. But this kind of speaks differently, doesn't it? Wow, really good. Says the one partner had first name tattooed on her chest. That was the one who got arrested. Was booked into jail on a misdemeanor charge. She was released from custody after posting a $500 bail. I'm not going to go into that one because you know what I'm going to say. According to the court records, she was arrested in late June for trespassing, and the case was pending. So this is great. She got arrested once for domestic violence, this lady, and then she gets out, and her bail was set very low, obviously, for $500. Annette is her first name, at least. And, she calls another... I mean, yeah, she's been in jail. She's got two, I guess, probably two sets of court cases or whatever. I mean, it's just... I don't even know how to answer that one, honestly. Yeah, and the other stuff, I might have mentioned this yesterday. I can't honestly remember what I say from one show to the next. But I also posted this, and it said San Diego Comic-Con's top 5 stories, and it was basically about the Deadpool. They actually showed a trailer, I think, at the Comic-Con. I wish I would go to these ones on the West Coast or wherever, because there's ones on the West Coast that are really big. I think that one actually, yeah. Yes, I know I'm an idiot. I don't know what's on the West Coast as far as states, more or less, where most of our states are located. I'm surprised I even know where Pennsylvania is at this point. Trust me. But anyway, yeah, that was a big deal. And then they showed also a trailer, which I thought that looked really interesting. The Batman versus Superman. But anyway, this one's on comicbook.com, and they're basically they're showing some shots of Ben Affleck's version of Batman, the costume. It looks actually pretty cool. You don't want to kind of copy everybody else. So it looks like it's more what do you call it? I'm not saying the other ones weren't. It's less of a costume and more of a they're showing Lex Luthor. The guy actually shaved his head because I thought he had hair before. And they're showing them. I'm sorry, I'm looking at these pictures. You can't understand what I'm talking about when I'm looking at it and doing a podcast, so it makes absolutely no sense. I understand. But anyway, it looks like Ben Affleck's costume is more than just a costume. It is actually a usable, device, so to speak, or, it's more of a protective uniform, whatever. So, I don't know if I mentioned this. This was probably yesterday's. I think it was that Harrison Ford had turned 73, because that was yesterday's news. But that was pretty cool. I didn't know about that. So, I really don't have much to say that I might have not mentioned before, because I did mention a couple of these stories now that it's coming back to me. Excuse me, I don't mean to snort on radio or whatever you want to call it, a podcast. This is good because it's short, not very to the point, but it's short. That's what I like. I was just happy because going back to I bought RAM for my computer. I'm running 24 gigs. I'm not going to say it's fast because it's DDR2. And, now we're up to, I think, DDR4 and 5. So you're not talking like rocket ship fast. But you're probably wondering, okay, oh, wow. Sorry about that. I got distracted by this. Happy birthday, Patrick Stewart, who turned 75. That's really cool. I'll have to send that to a friend. But, yeah, the DDR2 is not faster. But the thing is, when you put more RAM into your computer, what you're actually doing is it's not going to make your computer start up any faster. It will probably make things run a little smoother because what you're doing is, the way I think of RAM, random access memory. What I usually do when I think about RAM is I just think of your brain, and there is, actually, let me rephrase that. Not just your brain. Just think, well, I was partially right. Oh, wow. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by all these really interesting articles. But you got your short-term memory, which would be what RAM does to a computer. That's stuff that, you hear it and you may think about it right then. It's like right in the front of your memory, but unless you store it in your long-term memory, if it's something that actually makes a solid impression, that would be your hard drive in your computer. So you got your RAM, which is stuff you see and you remember at that moment. And if it's something really important, then it becomes your hard drive. It's basically, it's stored in your long-term memory. But your short-term memory and your long-term memory is like the RAM, and your computer is like, the RAM is like your short-term memory. And stuff that you want to remember or that makes an impression that you don't forget, and it's not just there for a few seconds, that would be your hard drive or your long-term memory, if that makes any sense. That's the best way that's the best kind of analogy I can come up with. I probably didn't do a very good job. I never do a good job on anything. So why am I saying that? Yes, that's a good question. Well, the reason I'm saying that, though, is because if you have more stuff that can be loaded in your RAM, that's good, because you want to avoid trying to use your hard drive to access things with. See, when you open things under your RAM, it will stay, like I said, in that short-term memory spot. So once you turn off your computer, anything in your RAM is gone, unless it's stored in the long-term memory or your hard drive. Because I'm doing the comparison trash with your brain and with the computer. It's almost similar, very similar. So by you having more memory, now I have 24 gigs. That means there's 24 gigs that I can open up that many more files than I could have with 8 gigs of RAM, which was still a lot. I don't think I could open that many. But I can store more in the memory, and even if I close it, it's going to still be in the RAM. Whatever I opened or closed, or if I keep it open, it's going to be all in the RAM. So will my access be faster? Yes, actually it will be, because I don't have to, depend on looking for it to open up. Like if you use all your memory up, if you somehow, hypothetically, which I'm sure I have before, and especially in video games you will, if you use up all your memory, your RAM, what the computer has to do, what it's forced to do, is change your hard drive into basically, your random access memory, your RAM. Like it's forced to, because your hard drives should only be used for storing programs, files, things you want to keep. But you really want to run your programs, open and close them, or keep them, in the background, whatever, in your memory. So that is why memory is so valuable in a computer. So I think the newer computers can actually run more. I think the new Macs actually run the minimum on any Mac Pro, the ones I call them trash bins, I guess, or the trash bin monoliths. Those actually start out at 64 gigs of RAM, and they can go higher. I think you can go up to like 128 gigs of RAM, maybe higher than that. So, years ago, when programs weren't so intense, operating systems weren't so bloated, you could get away with like 128 megs of RAM. But then, having a gig was like not necessary, but it became more and more useful. Now it's gotten to the point that even most computers now do come with 4 and 8 gigs of RAM, possibly even 16 gigs of RAM. You can buy a computer of that much. So you always want to stay ahead of the game, and you're actually doing yourself a favor. So, that being said, sorry, I've got something in my mouth. Food that I'm trying to pull out of my teeth. I shouldn't be doing that while I'm trying to do a podcast. But yeah, that's my whole spiel on memory. That's what I spent. It literally had taken me no more than 5 or 10 minutes to put in. And that's basically just unplugging all the connectors. I have what they're called, for my RAM, I have, they're called risers. Basically, they're pull-out cards that the RAM goes onto to connect to the motherboard on my system, my Mac, my 3.3-1 they call it. It was actually a 2008 Mac Pro, tower. Anyway, at this point, I am just really gonna, if I haven't already, I'm just gonna lose people's interest on the 5 people I have out there. So, everyone, I hope you kind of enjoyed what I did, and I will be hopefully back. Unfortunately, I'm not sure, because tomorrow I can't stay up that late anyway. So anyway, I am signing off for now. Have a good night, folks. Or good morning, actually, I should say.